Fox News Alert now, a live look at the border, Eagle Pass, Texas. These are live images that come into us from our Fox flight team. It's a drone image bringing in migrants, obviously crossing the border there, crossing over the river. This is Alejandro Mayorkas, the DHS secretary, is now citing an acute and immediate need to waive dozens of federal laws to build a border wall in South Texas, where illegal migration has surged. This is a complete turnaround from what we have seen from this administration. Mayorkas says he's using his authority provided by Congress to waive 26 federal laws now, including the Clean Air Act, Safe Drinking Water Act, and Endangered Species Act. So obviously there is a moment happening here where a White House who has arguably ignored this crisis is making a big turnaround on their change.
Changing a little bit. We'll see how far they go, indeed. But bashing that whole Trump border era wall, that was popular, but that was then, and this is now today, right? Joe Biden had to give his approval for some of this wall to be built here. What is it, 20 miles they're going to do? Jackie Heinrich's tracking that down. Let's get reaction from her on the North Lawn now. Hey, Jackie, good morning to you. Hello.
Good morning to you, Bill. Yeah, talk about a 180 from the Biden administration, now waiving 26 federal laws, including the Clean Air Act, to construct more border wall in Starr County, Texas, citing illegal crossings in high numbers. The DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas put out the notice yesterday. Very few details, but he writes, there's presently an acute and immediate need to construct physical barriers and roads in the vicinity of the border of the United States in order to prevent unlawful entries into the United States. This area in the Rio Grande sector has seen about 245,000 illegal crossings this fiscal year. An official tells Fox that this is now happening to address safety concerns for Border Patrol agents, migrants, and nearby communities. Quite the reversal, though, from Biden, who said this in 2020.
Trump campaigned on build that wall. Are you willing to tear that wall down?
No, there will not be another foot of wall constructed in my administration, number one. Number two, what I'm going to focus on I'm going to make sure that we have border protection, but it's going to be based on making sure that we use high-tech capacity to deal with it.
The Center for Biological Diversity is outraged at the president, saying this will stop wildlife migration dead in their tracks and destroy habitats. They say it's disheartening to see President Biden stoop to this level, casting aside our nation's bedrock environmental laws to build ineffective wildlife-killing border wall. The White House defending their response to the border crisis by blaming Republicans again.
The president requested $4 billion for supplemental funding to address what we're seeing at the border, right? And to manage what is happening currently at the southwest border more specifically. And Republicans continue to block us. They do. They continue to block us.
Former President Trump, the architect of the border wall idea, chastised Biden for doing this based only on the immediate need, saying that Biden also needs to address the people in the country already illegally and reinstate Remain in Mexico and also Title 42, Bill.
Okay, Jackie, thanks for that. Jackie Heinrich, North Lawn there.
Their probe into the president's son. The House Oversight Committee says the congressional subpoenas to get the bank records of Hunter Biden and his uncle are still valid, and the Department of Justice agrees. David Spunt is live with what it all means for this investigation. David.
Hi, Sandra. Good morning. Bill, good morning to you. House Republicans have had their eye on Hunter Biden for several years now, but things began ramping up when they took the gavel of power in January. After that, subpoena after subpoena came down from various different committees relating to the congressional Hunter Biden investigation. And even though there is no House Speaker right now and things are in turmoil for the Republican leadership on Capitol Hill, that does not change a thing when it comes to the investigation of Hunter Biden in a court of law, a.k.a. the Justice Department special counsel investigation into Hunter Biden. Hunter was in federal court earlier this week in Delaware, and more appearances are expected. His lead attorney, Abby Lowell, told the judge that he would file a motion to dismiss the case entirely. Lowell is specifically citing a diversion agreement he said was signed by the government and Hunter's attorneys back in July. It would have allowed Hunter to avoid jail time by pleading guilty to lying about his drug use on a federal firearm form in 2018. It was was part of that overall plea deal that collapsed in a very public way in July. Special counsel David Weiss, who was not present in court earlier this week, indicated in a court filing that diversion agreement is null and void, hence the reason Hunter was indicted and will likely to go to trial on gun charges. Now, Weiss said that in a recent court filing, he's looking at potential tax charges against Hunter in Washington, D.C. or California, where he lives. But the bottom line, all the chaos on Capitol Hill, has nothing to do with the DOJ part of the Hunter Biden investigation. Back to you.
All right, David Spunt on that. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Migrants arriving at the border on a daily basis. Our next guest is calling an administration to fully open an ICE detention center in California that sits empty. It was designed for a capacity of 2,000. Right now, it handles about 8 migrants. After a court order still in place, despite the president declaring the pandemic is over, California Congressman Jay Obernolte represents the district where that detention center is. And you want it open, sir, right? They closed it during COVID. How do you make it happen?
Absolutely. Well, it's just unconscionable that we've got a facility with nearly 2,000 beds in it, and we're using 8 of them, and the taxpayers are paying for all of this. At the same time, ICE is telling everyone that they're releasing migrants into our communities because we don't have enough bed space. So what we're saying is, look, just go to court as you have done for other ICE facilities across the country and get this outdated court order reversed. It's a simple action that they could take, and they'd have another 2,000 beds to work with.
Congressman, how are those communities dealing?
Which communities are we talking about?
The communities that are dealing with this influx of migrants right now.
Sure. You know, it's unconscionable. Across the country, we have communities, cities, and states declaring states of emergency because of this incredible influx of migrants. And we could have 2,000 that aren't on the streets in these communities if we would just take the action of using the beds that taxpayers are already paying for.
Okay, sir, I want to show our viewers a couple things, guys. Give us 1 and 3 here. Migrant encounters in the San Diego sector, all right? Fiscal year 2022, 160,000. This year, to date, 204,000. It's unbelievable. Here's the map about what we're talking about, okay? You're 150 miles from the border. And while that's happening, here was the question at the White House with Peter Doocy and KJP yesterday.
Does anybody outside of the White House think the immigration policy is working?
So here's what I can tell you. I just mentioned that the president requested $4 billion for supplemental funding to address what we're seeing at the border, right? And to manage what is happening currently at the southwest border more specifically. And Republicans continue to block us.
Okay, sir, that comment was made, that question and answer, before we got the announcement late last night that they will start building some sort of border containment wall over a period of 2 miles in what's known as Starr County, Texas. I think the question is, why now? Why are they doing this now, sir?
Right. I mean, I think it's been political pressure and pressure from the public. These images that we have of immigrants streaming across the border, the statistics you showed that says that in the month of September, ICE had more immigrant encounters at the border than ever before in the history of our country. You know, that's got the public finally paying attention to this issue. And, you know, let's not forget that just a couple of months ago, the administration authorized the sale at auction of building materials that have been sitting rusting in the Texas sun for the last couple of years that were intended to finish the border wall. So it's extremely disingenuous of them for now, all of a sudden, for them to say, just give us more money and we'll fix the problem. And, you know, by the way, them asking for more money, I think, is a little bit offensive because we have this facility in Adelanto with almost 2,000 beds that we're already paying for and not even using.
You referenced the taxpayers being on the hook for all this, Congressman. What do you assess is the economic impact of this, just with your district alone?
Sure. Well, you look at the fact that every city in America is now a border city because of the spread of migrants into cities as far away as New York City. Look at some of the things that New York has been saying about the economic impact on their communities. Billions of dollars a year being taken up in resources that shouldn't have to happen if the federal government would do its job.
Sir, thank you for your time and good luck out there. All right, Jay Obernolte, representative from California. Thank you, sir.
I mean, this is a major reversal on the part of this administration, and you've got to think they're seeing a lot of things to say, we can't just let this go on the way it has been any longer.
Yeah, two things I would add to that, Sandra. Put this up. National Immigration Law Center gives us this information. These are the free resources from state and local governments. Right, housing, cash assistance, education, healthcare, food, foreclosure prevention, and legal support. So all that's happening right now. One thing that did change this past week, and you haven't heard him talk much about this, the former president, Bill Clinton, called into a radio station here in New York City and said that New York's got to change its laws immediately because he says the people who are here do not want welfare. They want to work. And he's saying you got to change the whole permitting for employment immediately to allow them to do that. And I don't know if that was heard at the White House or not.
Look what happened with the gig economy and the scooters and the Uber Eats and some of those migrants that are surrounding the Roosevelt Hotel. They're trying to get to work the second they hit the ground here. So that's House Nikki Haley jumping ahead of Ron Desantis in one post-debate poll. It shows her now at 19% in New Hampshire, with Desantis falling to 10. Let's bring in Jessica Tarlov and Charlie Hurt. They are here.
Hello to you.
Good morning. Very interesting developments. So Haley, does she have some momentum here?
Well, I think without a doubt, you have a lot of Republican donors who are looking for an alternative. So far in this race, the most amazing thing that we've sort of seen is there was so much hope in Ron DeSantis, so much expectation that he was going to take run away with it as this sort of alternative to Donald Trump. But it's not panning out. It's not. He's not doing what anybody expected him to do in terms of support and, at this point, fundraising. He's even taking it suffering there as well. And so I imagine that these donors are going to keep looking until they find somebody they think can bring together everybody to go against Trump.
So somebody called her a Haley Comet. That's cute. Right?
It is cute. I like it. I don't want to say I'm surprised. I'm relieved, I guess, a bit to see this happening. I thought that she was the winner of both of the debates thus far. Obviously, I am not the target demo for a GOP primary debate, but I got it. I got what she was talking about. I thought that she was reasonable. I also thought that she was the most prepared, and that came across, that she had the experience to back up what she was saying. And I thought that she delivered really well. I would add, obviously, Ron DeSantis has been incredibly disappointing for the donor class. But someone else who's been really disappointing and has a lot of money, like $40 million on hand, is Tim Scott. People had high hopes for how he would do, and he's really bombed in both of those debates, and you don't really hear about it anymore.
A couple of things I would add. We're going to start hearing about fundraising numbers now. We got something from Ron DeSantis late yesterday. May through June, he raised $20 million. July through September, that's down to 13.5. Every dollar matters. Vivek Ramaswamy was with Brett last night. And this is what he said about the rules of the game and debates, etc. Watch.
I do not think the RNC is at all applying these rules even-handedly. I think the debate last week was unproductive. It was not useful. And I am starting to think that this is part of the establishment plan to silence a guy like me, but I'm not going to let them get away with it.
Well, I mean, that's up to him, I guess, right?
Yeah, but also, I don't really get what he's saying about how he's been silenced. If anybody has not been silenced, it's been Vivek Ramaswamy. The guy gets a lot of play, and he's very effective. I found him, he's an incredibly appealing guy, and nobody is clearer in their ability to sort of talk about the issues that everybody cares about. And I also don't get how the RNC is doing it, in any way unfairly. It seems like I agree that we have the RNC has a lot of problems about how they're running the primary in terms of the debates have been, I think they've been illuminating, but they certainly don't, I don't think they're necessarily narrowing
have
down
not been affirmative, right. I think we can say. But we talked to caucus goers in Iowa last hour. They matter. And what you're going to hear about a lot in January is if you can get out of there with a gold, silver, or bronze, a first, second, or third, then your campaign moves on. Smitty.
Meanwhile, we look at the entire field. The front runner for the Republican Party, Donald Trump, his campaign says it's raised more than $45.5 million in the third quarter. Yeah. He addressed this during a press lunch break yesterday, third day of a civil fraud trial in New York State. He's attributing this to overwhelming grassroots support.
I think that he's correct. Very clear, what doesn't kill him makes him stronger. With each indictment and each finding of fraud, he gets stronger, and he's raising more money, and his supporters are more dug in. But I said this after was it just last week that it was the debate that Dana was moderating? I understood watching that group why Trump voters were sticking with Trump. There was no one that said to me like, oh, I get it. If you are into Donald Trump, then it makes sense to go with this person. Unless you are thinking strategically about winning a general election. That's where I think Nikki Haley does really well. There's a new Marquette poll out today that is absolutely disastrous for Joe Biden. Trump is leading him on the issues by 20 plus points, things on the economy, creating jobs, border security, etc. Yet Joe Biden is still up by 2 percentage points. So it's 51 to 49 within the margin of error. But you look at those individual categories and you would think, oh, we're about to see a complete trouncing. But you don't, because it's Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, I believe, I mean, certainly based on 2020 and what's gone on with his endorsements in the Senate, et cetera, he can't win a general election. And Republicans who want to win in 2024 need to make that argument more strongly to the primary base, who is unmoved.
You would have said the same thing in 2016, though. And look what happened.
But we know that he's lost since then, though. He lost in 2020. Resoundingly.
Yeah, but I think that the electorate is a far more informed about the Biden family and about the lies that Democrats have been telling about Donald Trump for 6 years, and I think it's a very different.
You may or may not need that argument. You might just want to look at the economy and how you feel about the state of your own life and your own
But
family's life.
Democrats have been overperforming. And
Interesting. We'll see where they get with that.
Okay.